4 minutes after 9 o'clock at this time, I welcome you to Talking Point on DBS Radio. Just one day after we learned that government will purchase majority shares in Dominica. This is something that we want to bring to the fore sometime next week. But we have guests this morning. Today's Talking Points. It's the final day in the month of March. We'll never see that day again. We welcome the month of April on Friday tomorrow. So we are going to start off our discussion. I think it was sometime last year that the government applied for financing from the CDB and other agencies towards the cost of the road and bridges rehabilitation from that artery Loubiere to Bagatelle. If it was not last year, I stand to be corrected, but I know I will be corrected because we have guests on the program. I think that was a post-tropical storm Erika project. So we want to discuss this and look at some of the projects that CREAD is also involved in. We have CREAD on board this morning, but the main focus is on the Loubiere to Bagatelle Phase 1 road rehabilitation. And joining us this morning, we should have the senior engineer, Genora Joseph, and capital projects manager, Kennard Dazzel. They are representing CREAD. Karen Mayhe is also the communications lead for CREAD. And we should have as well Howard Barrett, who is the project coordinator of the Caribbean Development Bank projects. So we will start the discussion, but let me go over and say good morning to my guests. Let me start with Karen Mayhe. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ivana. Thank you so much for having us once again. Looking forward to a very interesting discussion and informative as well on the projects that CREAD are undertaking at present, but primarily the Loubiere to Bagatelle Phase 1 rehabilitation.
Definitely.
To my left is Dr. Genora Joseph, our chief engineer.
Good morning, Ivana. Thank you for having us on the program this morning.
Good morning to you, Genora. Yes. I would have spoken to you on radio prior to you going abroad to further your education, and look at how far you have come.
Thank you so much. Yes.
You were always determined to succeed, and I really, congratulate you on your efforts, and I know that, the sky's the limit, because if I know you well,
Thank you so much. Further. And I'm especially honored to be serving Dominica in this capacity. And I am looking forward to discussion this morning about the Loubiere to Bagatelle Road Phase 1.
Okay, right. Nice to have you on. And yes, I'm Karen. So we also have
Kennard Dazzel. Kennard.
Hi, good morning, Ivana.
Hi.
And good morning to the listeners out there.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to have you on. It's not the first time, so welcome again. Welcome.
Yes, I feel at home in your studio.
All right. Well, I'm honored. I'm so happy. And then we have as well, Karen.
Well, we are expecting Howard to join the call. Howard Barrett. Howard Barrett from CDB, representing CDB in Dominica as project director. We have not seen him join the call as yet, but we're hoping that he will along the way, because he is also instrumental in the Loubiere to Bagatelle project, as is CDB. So we're hoping that he joins us to speak about that element.
Mm-hmm. This is a very important, very significant project. I mean, when you talk about infrastructural development and, road rehabilitation, this would surely augur well, for not just for the community, for the people who commute, in that space, every day, but for the entire country. So it should be interesting as we look at this project. But Karen, let me ask you to start. Bring us up to date. I can recall reading the announcements a few months ago, and there was the invitation for expressions of interest from qualified, I think it was consulting firms, for work on that project. Explain CREAD's role and what is the status of the project? What is this about?
Sure, Ivana. Obviously, I'm not going to be the person to do this for you this morning. I am going to hand over, first of all, to Kennard, who is definitely in a better position to give salient details on what you are asking. So, Kennard, take it away.
Hi, yes, Ivana. I'm happy to actually shed some light on this. Yes, we have moved very close to actually seeing a start in the physical works on the ground. The physical works we expect to start sometime in the end of the second quarter, early third. So we had expressions out for consultants and for contractors actually. So that process has now been closed. We have shortlisted. We have the shortlist approved. As a matter of fact, only on Tuesday, we had the pre-bid meetings with the contractor and site visits here. Just to bring you up to date in terms of the responses we had during the expressions of interest period, we had about 11 companies requesting documentation, and out of that, we went through the evaluation and we shortlisted 4 contractors to participate in the execution of the works. So of the 4, we had them engaged on the pre-bid session and the site visits recently done. So this actually marks a significant milestone in the process towards the start. Because in terms of the preparation of their documentation for submission, they are more informed now as to how and what is required towards delivering the project itself, towards the kind of quality and standards that we're looking for. So that's from that side of it in terms of the construction aspect. We also have, in terms of from the supervision side of things, we're looking, because you have to get a consultant to supervise the work. So that process is also ongoing. And we're hoping to have to wrap that up also by the end of the second quarter so that we can move into the construction with a construction supervising firm.
All right. So you would call this what, the preliminary phase?
Yeah, well, we're still in the preliminary stages here, and then from here we'll move into the construction because the designs and all those have been completed. So we're just awaiting the tenders, which is closing on the 26th of April.
Okay.
So the contractors have to submit their bids by that date. So when that is done, the evaluation, and then following that we'll have the awards, hopefully in a very short space of time, so that the guys can start mobilizing to the site.
Are you encouraged though by the response thus far?
Yes, quite frankly, we were very encouraged, and like I said, we had the 4 shortlisted companies because they had to be screened very well. All right, to ensure that they have the necessary capacity to execute. So, given the size or the scale of the project and the level of complexity built in, so yes, having those 4 contractors who were participating in the bid, it's definitely encouraging.
Genora Joseph, you have a major responsibility in this venture as the chief engineer, the senior engineer. What is the primary function of a senior engineer in a project of this nature? And give us your take on how important this project is.
Well, for this particular project, my role specifically as a senior engineer, what I will be specifically looking at on the project is the environmental, social, health and safety safeguarding on that project. So I will function as the client and CREAD's environmental expert on the project. So we realized that because of the scope and the scale of the projects and the interventions that have to be carried out along the route to ensure that we have a rehabilitated road that offers a better commuting experience to motorists, there are a lot of environmental and social considerations that have to be taken into account. For instance, we have the issue of land acquisition, and we also have the various impacts that have been identified during the design phase, which need to be mitigated against whilst the project is in the construction phase. So I will be overseeing that the plan that has been developed to mitigate those environmental and social risks associated with the project is implemented properly. There is continuous engagement with the stakeholders on the project. We have a number of stakeholders, especially the communities. So in this discussion, I would like to go a little bit further into what we have been doing so far with regard to community engagement and the plans that we have for future engagement and consultation with our stakeholders.
Okay, so Karen, you give me an indication when we have Howard on. Of course, it would be nice to have him in this discussion. I know the CDB plays a very important role in all of this. So you let us
definitely, Ivana. We have reached out. We are waiting to hear from him. So we're really hoping that he joins because it's a significant collaboration, obviously. So we're hoping he comes online very shortly.
So tell us, how much does CREAD have to in terms of their collaborative efforts? CREAD and the CDB. I mean, how much involved is the CDB involved apart from the capital? How much does the CDB do for a project like that? Give us an idea, Karen, because I know CREAD, of course, is the executing agency for the project, and CDB would have provided funding. But how much do you liaise on a project of that magnitude?
Well, we actually work very closely with CDB on this since they're the implementing institution for the financing. So we work hand in hand with them towards the development of this project because they have oversight in terms of the whole process to ensure that all the tenets of what a good and resilient project is in terms of the management of the entire procurement process. As a matter of fact, has to we get at various stages. They will have to do their reviews and provide no objections before we move forward.
All right.
So it's an integral process, between the agencies. It's a collaboration between all.
Mm-hmm. Now, the chief engineer spoke about the environmental aspect of the project, and she's very much involved in that. But Kennard, explain to us the other components. So I'm looking here. What are we looking at as far as the road, the enhancing of the road is concerned? What about drainage? What can you tell us about this? Slope stability and things like retaining walls, culverts, etc.
Ivana, yeah. I mean, I guess we should recruit you as the engineer, man.
What?
Yeah. In terms of what is going to be executed out there, it's a simple exercise in terms of expanding on or improving, I should say, the geometric properties or design of the road itself in terms of its width. We want to improve the hydraulic capacity also, which means in terms of the introduction of larger culverts, better drainage on both sides, and of course the installation of 5 bridges along the route there, so that you don't have, these bridges of course are clear spans, so you don't have or you have a greater chance of them not being blocked during a storm event. And of course, one of the primary focus itself here in this project is improving the safety of the road itself so that the end users or the beneficiaries can enjoy a more safer roadway, because of course, it's a critical road, the only one in and out. So safety is paramount.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. When we look at the scope of the project and its significance, we would agree that this will undoubtedly enhance the flow of traffic and provide greater convenience. But how challenging is this project, considering that it is the main gateway to that part of the country? What are some of the changes that are expected once the project begins? We also have to look at where we are now, almost April, not too far from the hurricane season. So give us an idea as to, how that project is expected to unfold, taking into account these challenges.
All right. In terms of the road being the main artery in and out of the community there, it's going to be a very the main challenge we will see is in terms of the management of the traffic flows during the execution of the project itself. And this is where we will have we will be monitoring closely, and Dr. Genora, this is where she will, of course, be policing all the activities out there where that is concerned. So I will ask her to expound a little bit more on this.
Yes. Thank you, Kennard. Yes, of course. So we do know that this is a very critical roadway for the people of the South. and it's the only way that we can access the communities of the South. So there's a very important component of traffic management involved in this particular project. And we've impressed on the prospective bidders that they have to include in their methodology strategies to manage the flow of traffic, inclusive of considerations for bypass roads, road signage, road safety, safety wardens, and so on. So what we want to see is that during the works, traffic is maintained because this is the only route into those communities, but there are also safety measures to ensure the safety of commuters, safety of the pedestrians and people using the road. Now, you mentioned the critical component of the consideration of risk management for this road rehabilitation project, and that is the fact that road works will be starting in the hurricane season. Now, one of the things that has been identified in the design phase is the need for the contractor to develop an extreme weather management plan. And that plan will see measures in place to safeguard the works in the event of any extreme weather. The works will be ongoing for about a period of 18 months. So we recognize that we really cannot avoid operating during the normal hurricane season. So there is a need to ensure that there is a management plan in place for contractors to be mindful and aware of whether systems are approaching the island and what the intensity or the forecast is concerning those weather systems, and to take the appropriate measures to safeguard the works, to safeguard materials on site, and to protect the overall operations.
I know it's from Loubiere to Bagatelle, but give us an idea as to the other communities that will be affected. Of course, we hear Loubiere, we hear Bagatelle, but in between this.
Actually, this first phase of the project is going to be the Grandbay Junction. So it's from Loubiere to Grandbay Junction.
So that is the area give us an exact...
by the school.
So that's right next to the junction, right next to Pierre Charles Secondary School.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it will be ending there.
Mm-hmm. I know we mentioned, of course, one of the challenges could be the hurricane season and all of that. But as Dr. Joseph mentioned, measures will be put in place, of course. But we know that Dominica is very vulnerable to natural disasters. I mean, recent natural disasters would have rocked us to the core. And this artery, this road network in that part of the island, we know got its fair share. Receiving a battering, especially from Tropical Storm Erika and more recently, Hurricane Maria. How does CREAD integrate resilience in an infrastructural development project of that nature? What should we be mindful of?
Well, in terms of the one of the things that is built into the project, as I mentioned before, in terms you take the hydraulic capacity, for example, one of the primary reason that we experienced or we were impacted by on the road there in terms of the overflows and stuff is because of the high flows that you were having and the small culverts that were clogged. So you have, water cutting across the roads and such and such. And then, of course, by the road itself, it's along the cliffs. So what you will find is that in this, as an added feature, there will be some amount of slope stabilization, cut at certain angles so that we can improve the stability. So you should find less less slippage in the areas of intervention. So from the upslope and downslope side, those will be stabilized to some extent in the areas that we will be intervening on. In terms of the road width will be wider, so at least you will have, which is a form of resilience. So even if there is some amount of a disruption to part of the road itself, you will have, more areas to move and be able to work around. So, it's all in all, I mean, with the various interventions and so forth, these are all part and parcel of ensure that you have resilience built into the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. In terms of what you have seen, Dr. Joseph, is there a lot of seepage in that area? I know generally in Dominica we have areas in particular where we have a lot of seepage. We have a lot of this. Is this an area that has experienced this as well? Could it be as well because of our terrain, our whole geographical nature, that we have this problem?
Well, we know that in Dominica, our topography, it presents a challenge. We also have our the geotechnical aspects of the island are also can be challenging for road construction. So we know that in communities such as Bellevue, where the rainfall is frequently higher than average. So we know that there is a need to ensure that any channels or hydraulic interventions on the project can accommodate the capacity of water that is being produced in that area. And we do have groundwater in Bellevue-Chopin, and we have had extensive geotechnical investigations as part of to inform the design process for this road. So the road design itself will take into account the geotechnical characteristics of the area along the route. So even the bridges have been designed to accommodate an increased hydraulic capacity, and that speaks to the increased flow of water that is anticipated to be arising as a result of climate change. We've seen an increase in the frequency and the magnitude of climate-related events such as storms and hurricanes. So the road design has taken into account climate change, adaptivity, and so on. So these are things that have certainly been considered in the design process. But additionally, as a requirement of that UK Caribbean Infrastructure Fund, there has to be a component of gender responsiveness. And what that really speaks to is ensuring that where we have identified gender inequality in the various communities, that there are aspects of the road construction implementation that can address some of those issues. So it's a very comprehensive process of considering all the facets of road construction, the environmental, the geotechnical, the highway engineering components, and in addition, the social aspects of it as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a WhatsApp message, and someone from the area in Bagatelle is telling me that she thinks that the doctor in particular should break down in simple terms, what they can expect. I know, Dr. Joseph, that, you speak the language, you study the language and you speak the language, but how do we break this down to make it simple for people to really understand, people in the area to understand, what impact, this project will have on their lives? How do we break it down when we talk about seepage and, drainage and slope stability and things like that? I know you mentioned geotechnical whatever, but I think that was one of the terms probably that, they are not too clear about.
Oh, I'm really happy to put all of this in layman's terms. So I'm a resident of Bellevue-Chopin, so this road itself will be a big improvement on my commute. So I'm really looking forward to the road construction from a personal standpoint. So I would like to really explain to the people, especially the people in the affected communities, what the road entails. Mm-hmm. So we know that this particular road has historically been affected by a lot of storms and hurricanes. And even sometimes when we have a heavy rainfall, we can see stones coming off the cliff face and so on. So it's a very, very vulnerable road in terms of extreme weather. So what we are trying to do with this project, what the project will entail is widening the road. So we want to give people a wider road, which is safer, which will increase the safety on the road, and it will reduce the journey time for people using the road. So that's one aspect of it. We've recognized also that some of the bridges and the culverts that are existing, they no longer are able to handle the volume of water that is coming from the cliff face. So we need to improve those, and that would involve increasing the size, making the bridges higher and longer. And it will also have when you drive along that road, sometimes they say that driving along this road, you have to have a special skill in terms of handling the curves. So part of the road design will be improving some of those curves so that it is an easier road to commute on.
That would be good.
So these are the aspects of it. And when I say geotechnical, what I'm talking about is the soil. So the road, the ability of the road to support the traffic that is going to go back and forth depends on the soil underneath. So what we've done is we've ensured that we have a survey of what the soil is like so that the design can accommodate for what the soil can bear, and we can make improvements when necessary. Okay. We can stabilize slopes that are at risk of falling over so that people have an altogether safer experience on the Loubiere to Bagatelle road.
Okay, I think we have someone on the line who wants to share something. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm extremely happy for the education on this road, Loubiere to Bagatelle road development. Actually, as the chairman of the village council in Loubiere, I can tell you that there has been consultation, and that is very good. And we like that kind of educational program. And persons must understand also. In fact, they went to the entire area in all the different councils and, educated persons on the whole framework and the development for the road. And certainly with development, there will always be challenges. So persons have to also understand that, of course, there'll be little inconveniences and so on, but I'm sure they will put out the necessary signage, the necessary radio announcement. And I think this is a plus for Dominica, as this is a major road network, and we should all be very supportive. So certainly, I hope signage is high on the agenda. I'm sure that will be. And persons have to understand at certain times there will be inconvenience. I reckon the contractors, they will put out the announcement to sensitize the public on the days when the traffic will be, slow and so on. But certainly, I'm listening. Very interesting discussion here, and I think that is the way forward. Thank you.
All right. Let me thank you as well. It's Talking Points on DBS Radio, and we are discussing a very interesting topic this morning as it relates to the Loubiere to Bagatelle road rehabilitation, and that will also involve the construction of bridges as well. We understood as well bypasses may be constructed, so it is a major project being undertaken in that part of the community. Kennard Dazzel, we spoke about high quality construction. That is one of the expectations, of course, of CREAD. What are some of the other things that CREAD is expecting from a project of that magnitude?
Well, just simply put, what we will be expecting is value for money. And in so doing, we ensure that at least, the contractors do what they're supposed to do. They execute in a timely manner. The work, it's delivered on time, within budget, and to the kind of quality that we're looking at. So that in itself, has several responsibilities there. And it's an entire team that will be supporting this intervention. So it just so happened that CREAD is the executing agency, but we will have the consultants on board who will actually take care of the day-to-day supervision towards ensuring that the technical specifications as outlined in the design, these things are met. From a quality perspective, the timelines are met. And of course, like we said, the primary focus here is on the safety. So we will be, part and parcel in terms of pushing that safety agenda. And as the gentleman said, signage was, of course, will definitely be in place. So from the CREAD side, we will definitely be overseeing or ensuring that the beneficiaries get value for money.
Right. I would really like to get the input of the CDB's representative. I know he's not there, but explain to us, though, the importance of monitoring and evaluation in this venture. And I want to hear from both you and Dr. Joseph as far as that question.
Okay, so first of all, we realize that with this project, when we have projects of this nature, we know that there is a large scale for impacts on the people, the affected communities. And those would, in this particular instance, we're looking at Loubiere to Bagatelle phase 1, which is Loubiere to Grandbay. So the communities in question would be Loubiere, Bellevue-Chopin, Pichelin, and Grandbay. So we know that there is potential for impact. So the project is going to deliver a net positive impact to those communities in terms of an improved road system. But we do know that there will be consequences in the sense that there will be potential negative impacts associated with the construction phase of the project. So in terms of monitoring and evaluation, what we want to see is that the outcomes that have been identified in the project conceptualization, in the design of the project, these are realized upon construction. So we want to see road safety improving, the commuting time improving. We want to see opportunities being created for people as a result of the efficiencies that the road delivers. So all of these will be part of the monitoring process. So we'll be monitoring these objectives. We'll be evaluating the project in terms of other milestones, in terms of the construction time. As Kennard mentioned, we want to get value for money for the beneficiaries. We'll be looking at the project costs, and we'll be looking at, for all the implementation of the project, how the milestones that we achieve measure up with those that we have identified as milestones for the performance evaluation of the project. So all of these things, I think that will be certainly taken on board in the whole execution of the project.
Kennard, I guess your response is the same. Or Karen, are you coming in here?
I was coming in just for a little tip, and I was going to make mention also of the fact that one of the major inclusions in this whole process is a community liaison officer, which we are currently recruiting to bring on board specifically for this project and to interface with the residents, businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and all persons, that will be affected directly by the process of, improving and rehabilitating this road. And of course, under my area specifically is also the design and development and execution of a detailed communication strategy where outreach to, again, the persons I mentioned before will be communicated with on a regular basis. So we want to thank the Village Council rep who called in today, and we feel good that we have at least started right, but we have to make sure we continue correctly and end up perfectly as well. So there are a number of elements working together to make sure that this is a success and with limited fractures to the societies involved. Yeah.
Yes, Kennard. So I was looking at the issue of the importance more so of monitoring and evaluation in this venture. And, we heard from Dr. Joseph. I'm not sure if you'd like to add to this. I know Dr. Joseph is the senior engineer. So what would you tell us as far as that is concerned, how significant that is? We are monitoring and evaluation in a project like this.
Well, just to add to what Dr. Joseph is saying, we will have what we try to do is in a real-time basis, capture all the activities that are happening out there. This will be transmitted and monitored real-time from the parties involved in terms of the consultants and CREAD. And as the project manager on this here, this is one of the elements or the primary element in terms of having to ensure that it stays on track. So in terms of ensuring the monitoring is done to have that on track in terms of the schedule and the costing, of course. So it's a day-to-day activity, and we're introducing some technology that will help us along this path.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I want to look at some of the other projects that CREAD is involved in, but let us backtrack a bit. Particularly for those who probably are just joining in, who are not sure what we're talking about. Give us an idea again. So just reiterate what we are looking at and how significant this is. What areas, again, will be affected, and what is CREAD proposing? Of course, with help, financing from the Caribbean Development Bank that government has applied for. What is CREAD proposing?
So to our listeners who have just joined the program, I'll give a synopsis of what the project entails. So we are currently speaking about the Loubiere to Bagatelle Road Phase 1, which is going to be from the Loubiere Junction to the Grandbay Junction. And that is approximately 10 kilometers of road. And along that route, the project will involve rehabilitation of the road, which is inclusive of road widening in certain areas, interventions to improve the culverts, the drainage of the road. There will be 5 bridges constructed along that route, and there will also be a component of slope stabilization, as well as improving the geometry of the road so that you have an easier commuting experience for the users of the road. The affected communities will be Loubiere, Bellevue-Chopin, Pichelay, and Grandbay in this phase 1 of the project. We anticipate that thereafter there will be an additional phase which will look into carrying the road onward to Bagatelle. But for this particular phase, we are stopping at the Grandbay Junction. As it relates to activities that are ongoing, my colleague Kennard was speaking about the processes so far, which we are looking to engage the supervising consultant on the project, as well as the contractor who will be responsible for the construction of the work. And we have recently had our pre-bid meetings, and we anticipate that the bids for construction will be submitted by the 26th of April. There are other activities which speak to the social and environmental components of the work. We have had consultations starting from 2021 with the various affected communities. And most recently, we concluded some surveys in the community of Bellevue-Chopin. Now, this particular community is one of those where the road will be widened. And we know that we have a few vendors who are established along the roadway. So we've had some surveys because we've been developing a land acquisition plan to inform the project. And so we want to take into account the interests and the impact of the project on the livelihoods of those vendors who are along the route. So that is all part of the project, all part of the process of informing the project and its implementation.
And just to add to that, too, one of the features that you will notice when the road is completed, that in sections where the road is narrow, there will be sidewalks, catering specifically to pedestrians. And then, of course, on the bridge itself, you will find there is a section there for the pedestrians also. So they're taken into consideration on the design there.
Dr. Joseph, you mentioned surveys conducted in Bellevue-Chopin. What is the general consensus of the people? What are the people saying? Or is it premature to say now? Have you gone through that survey and to come up, with this in terms of what people are saying as far as that project is concerned?
Yes, but first of all, let me start off by thanking the respondents to the survey. The vendors have been very receptive to the survey. They've been very cooperative, and I thank all of them at Bellevue-Chopin for participating in the survey. So what we were hoping to capture in that survey is we wanted to have a record of the precise conditions of the vendors, in the sense that we wanted to capture how they gain their livelihoods along the route, so that our acquisition plan and any decisions to move the vendors or to accommodate them would be informed by their present situations. So what we've been doing is we've been collecting information on the nature of their activities, their business activities, collecting information on the length of time that they've been conducting their livelihoods from the roadside, the types of merchandise they may sell. We've been also looking at any vulnerabilities or any considerations that we should make, even asking them questions about training activities that they would want to see in the communities, because we recognize that a project of this nature, the social component cannot be neglected, because we want all the stakeholders to be satisfied with the end result. So we are taking on board all the stakeholder considerations. And by and large, the vendors are saying that we want this development, we want the road. However, we want our interests to be accurately represented, which is why we are in the process of developing a very comprehensive acquisition plan, which will speak to all the issues that are arising with the project as it relates to land acquisition and eventual plans or moves to even relocate any of the vendors.
You mentioned stakeholders. Would part of that group involve like the utility companies, the Wasco and others?
Yes. As part of the design, we've actually captured the positions, and we have been working closely with the utility companies in identifying both on the ground and above ground their assets and the location. So they too will be playing an integral part in terms of the areas for relocation of these assets during the construction period. So there will be no disruption to the services to the communities.
Okay. At this time, let me just recognize the sponsorship of Flow Dominica, and we will continue.
Why pay full price for your mobile when you can pay less? Just bundle your home internet and mobile services with Flow and save 25% on your mobile bill every month. That's money in your pocket. And now you get 15 times more data, plus free YouTube and WhatsApp data. And you can share your plan with up to 3 other numbers. Upgrade now and get a free smartphone. Switch and keep your number. Learn more at discoverflow.co. Why pay full price for your mobile when you can pay less? Just bundle your home internet and mobile services with Flow and save 25% on your mobile bill every month. That's money in your pocket. And now you get 15 times more data, plus free YouTube and WhatsApp data. And you can share your plan with up to 3 other numbers. Upgrade now and get a free smartphone. Switch and keep your number. Learn more at discoverflow.co.
It is Talking Point on DBS Radio. We end at 10 o'clock. It is already 17 minutes before that time. We are discussing a massive project from Loubiere to Bagatelle, road and bridges rehabilitation. I think the duration of this assignment should be 18 months. There's a lot of groundwork that is being done before the actual construction, before we begin to see construction works on that project. And CREAD, the Climate Resilience Execution Agency for Dominica is the agency that executes the project. Working in collaboration, of course, with the Ministry of Public Works and Digital Economy. So CREAD coordinates the various activities within the projects. CREAD is also involved in a number of other projects, some of them on stream. There are projects in the pipeline. We have had CREAD on for several programs on Talking Point, and we have looked at major infrastructural projects in Dominica. So, Karen, give us an idea as to what is ongoing apart from this project that we are talking about. What are some of the projects that are ongoing and what is on stream as far as CREAD is concerned?
Sure, Ivona. Well, we're going to keep it tight today where capital projects are concerned. So one of the ongoing projects is the East Coast Road rehabilitation. I think Kennard can speak a little bit on that as well. And we also have the 2 regional emergency shelters, the one in Jimmet completed and handed over, the one in Castle Bruce nearing its end as well. I believe that both my colleagues can, Dr. Joseph will speak on the shelters.
Kalinago shelter.
And the Kalinago shelter as well, which is in its planning phase. So that's another one that you can say is in the pipeline, and going through the process of construction phases and so on and so forth. So I will let Dr. Joseph start off, and then Kennard will take it from there.
Yes. So I would just give a brief overview of the shelters. So the shelter at Jimmet has been recently completed, and Castle Bruce, there's another shelter at Castle Bruce as well, which is also practically complete. And we have in the pipeline, currently in the design phase, the advanced design for Kalinago multipurpose and emergency shelter. And recently, there was a project launch in the Kalinago territory at Bataka for this particular project. So this project is being funded jointly by the Canadian government and the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica through the Caribbean Development Bank. So this is one of the projects that is currently in the pipeline. The shelters are at practical completion, and we also have the 2 lots of the East Coast Road that are currently underway.
Yes, we have the East Coast Road, but before I jump into that one day, I just want to mention that the shelters, at Jimmet and at Castle Bruce, this is under the funding of the European Union. So we were lending support to that agency also in the execution and delivery of that project. Under the same European Union funding, we are doing we are helping with some 24 houses currently being constructed in the Kalinago territory. So that's ongoing currently. In addition to that, well, of course, the East Coast Road is a major undertaking that is currently in the works. Most persons traverse that section would see what's happening there. This is being funded under the DVRP program of the World Bank DVRP program. And then also there's the housing recovery program that is ongoing currently, which we're providing some assistance to also. And then there's the water sector project that is ongoing currently. We have also the schools in W.S. Stevens, Grandbay, Delis, and Montjean, which basically Delis and Montjean has been completed. W.S. Stevens was recently completed, and we should have Grandbay should be completed very shortly. So these are some of the ongoing projects that we currently participate in.
All right. So the emergency shelters in Jimmet, you said recently completed. Castle Bruce, you mentioned Kalinago shelter as well, this multipurpose and emergency shelter. As far as the social impact assessments on these projects, what does that entail? And were these carried out as well? Were these assessments done even prior to the actual construction of these projects?
Yes, these all the assessment as it relates to developing these projects were completed. And before you actually jump into the construction, and it was also part and parcel in terms of during the construction. So I just want to mention that These two shelters here has now a bed capacity of about 800 beds. So it will take, from the communities itself. In Castle Bruce, for example, that's 500. So analyzing the social challenges within the region there, and putting it towards ensuring that they're taken care of, or they have a place to go during an emergency. So it will take care of that social aspect there. And of course, ODM will be the managers of their shelters, and so it's part and parcel. But yes, the social challenges or social considerations were done before the project was completed.
Mm-hmm. And I will also add that for the Kalinago multipurpose emergency shelter, which is currently in the design phase, there is also a soft component of the project which speaks to a lot of the social impacts. And that component involves training in the Kalinago territory on disaster risk management, gender equity, and also, so there are several training components and capacity building exercises that are also included on this project program. And there is a project team who are involved in the soft implementation component of that project. And the environmental and social impact assessment for this project will be conducted and include the social aspects of the project and its implications for the Kalinago territory.
Mm-hmm. The East Coast Road Rehabilitation, a massive project in Dominica. I mean, any challenges encountered thus far? How is it going?
Like most development, most projects, there will be challenges, and yes, we've encountered a few challenges along the route. Some of these have actually been, resolved, because this is part and parcel of the collaborative effort between the various agencies in terms of whenever you have these issues, it's resolved. So currently in phase one, which runs from Bob Diablo to Castle Bruce, that's one leg there, and then from Castle Bruce to Hatton Garden. I must say that in one of the segments, segment 2, yes, there are some challenges in the sense of persons who have constructed or have structures in areas that were slated for widening. But this is understandably so, since the project was designed sometime after the hurricane, and persons is now being constructed, so persons would have constructed their structures to the side of the road. So, but we're currently working that out in terms of from the social side of things. How do we resolve these issues in and under that project?
All right, let's go to the telephone. I think we have someone on the line. That person has been on for a while. Let me see if this person is still there. Okay, so we lost that call. You could call us back. It's just 9 minutes already before 10 o'clock. We are looking at major infrastructural projects in Dominica, spearheaded by CREAD, the Climate Resilience Execution Agency for Dominica. We spoke earlier about the road and bridges rehabilitation from Loubiere to Bagatelle. And we also are now looking at some of the major projects that are being undertaken, to include, of course, the Castle Bruce, the East Coast Road Rehabilitation, the emergency shelters as well, and in Jimmet, what is happening in the Kalinago territory as well, and Castle Bruce as far as emergency shelters are concerned. CREAD is really spearheading this efforts in Dominica. And a very important component of all of this is the integration of resilience in these infrastructural developments, and this is very important, especially as Dominica made this bold statement that it will position itself as the first climate resilient country in the world. So am I right on that track in terms of how we integrate resilience in all of these projects?
Yes, definitely correct. CREAD as the coordinating partners, coordinate with all parties, I should say, on the development of all these projects. And one of the things I would like to mention here too is the fact that there are some agencies that persons from time to time might not be aware of their participation and contribution to the development of these, projects. And two agencies of such is the Inland Revenue Department and the Dominica Social Security. On Tuesday, we had the pre-bid sessions with the contractors, the potential contractors for this. And we had very good presentations from these two agencies, because it's important for all parties or all service providers in Dominica and those intent to operate in Dominica. So one of the objective is for them to ensure that they are fully apprised of their obligations and that they honor these. So these agencies also provide support services to the project in terms of ensuring that these potential service providers are fully aware. So I want to give a special thank you to the guys at the Inland Revenue Department, the DSS, and the other agencies who support the development of these type of projects too.
Mm-hmm. Speak to the people, more so the residents of the various communities, about why they should embrace these developments.
Well, in terms of the embrace of these developments, it would definitely improve their livelihoods. And one of the areas that we would stress on is in terms of the safety, enhanced safety to these beneficiaries. So definitely, we would encourage all and sundry to embrace the development that is ongoing. But of course, you will be discommoded at some point in time for a very short, in very short sessions, but it's all toward the long-term development.
Right. Are we on the right track or right path, Dr. Joseph? Are we on the right trajectory as far as these projects are concerned?
Yes, I would certainly say that we are on the right track. I think when we have a mission to become the world's first climate resilient nation, and that involves many facets of society and our development coming together. And I think infrastructure, in particular road infrastructure, is very critical to our whole climate resilience agenda. We want to improve the safety, and we also want to improve the resilience, the durability of our road network, because we do recognize that in times of disaster, a road network that is not fit for purpose in the sense of not being able to withstand extreme weather events can lead to people becoming isolated and cut off, and can increase the risk of mortalities and so on. So we see that part of the climate resilience agenda is ensuring that all these various components of our development are brought together. We have to look as well as not just the technical side of climate resilience, but also the community side of things, the social component, things such as gender equity, realizing in the communities along the route that there are disparities in terms of employment, and the unemployment statistics tend to skew towards women. More women are unemployed. Even when we look at the vendors operating along the route, they are mostly women. So there is a component of the project which seeks to ensure that there is equity in terms of employment, equity in terms of opportunity. And we also know that in the communities, for instance, my community of Bellevue, there is a strong organic agriculture movement. And we want to ensure that the road provides benefits to that movement so that people can more easily bring their produce to market. They can even have tourism improve in those communities. So all of these are aspects of our resilience in terms of the social, the environmental, the technical, and the economic resilience that we are trying to build in Dominica.
All right. So as we end, let me get closing remarks from all of you. Karen, I realized that we did not get Howard Barrett of the Caribbean Development Bank. I'm hoping that some other time we can speak to him about the importance of projects like that and the involvement of the CDB. But anything you'd like to add as we end, Karen?
Sure. Definitely, we will seek to have Mr. Barrett join us in the future as we bring the people up to speed with the developments of the Loubiere to Bagatelle Phase 1 rehabilitation. I think it's important that he speaks on behalf of the CDB as well. Before we conclude, I wanted to also speak to very quickly on a recently concluded project that CREAD was involved in with the Commonwealth of Learning and the Office of Disaster Management, the ODM in Dominica. Ahead of the 2022 hurricane season, we undertook an 8-month project of completely overhauling the ODM website. It was a long, arduous, and very intrinsic project. So that is now concluded. It has been publicly launched last week, and we invite all Dominicans to go on www.odm.gov.dm to see this new website, which is 100% interactive and full of salient information. There's even a section to prepare children for perils that may approach the country. It is not just dealing with hurricanes, it is also dealing with a wide cross-section of hazards that Dominica finds itself open to. So I just would like to encourage, the population to take a look at that and see what information they can pull from that. Outside of that, I would like to thank both of my colleagues, Dr. Joseph and Mr. Dazzel, for joining me here today and keeping the public informed and educated about the projects that we are involved in. A project of this nature, the Loubiere to Bagatelle Road Rehabilitation, is an all-inclusive project. And not only does it include external agencies, but what is critical to the success of the project is the buy-in from all the residents and persons affected. So we will definitely be coming on Talking Point and reaching out directly to these persons to ensure that they are kept abreast of each stage of this process. Kennard?
And well, there's very little I can add to that. We want to continue to ask the persons out there. We want to continue to engage with all parties, and we want to continue to work with all partners towards the development and the realization of the resilience journey that we are on.
Okay, Dr. Joseph, as we end, your closing remarks.
Yes. So as Kennard said, just to add to what Kennard just said, we will be conducting future consultation activities. So we want the residents in the affected communities to look out for announcements about these stakeholder engagement activities and to come out and participate and make their voices, their thoughts on the project, their concerns heard. We will also be publishing for public disclosure our environmental impact assessment. And so we invite members of the public. This will be indicated in a newspaper. So we will invite members of the public to leave their comments on and direct them to the Physical Planning Division on the environmental impact assessment. So any concerns and comments. And throughout the duration of the project, we will have a robust grievance redress mechanism where people can express their concerns, their complaints, and so on. And all of these things will be highlighted periodically in future, so people are always aware of the routes that they have to communicate with CREAD and to communicate on the project.
Okay, well, let me thank all of you for joining us this morning. Surely this is a very important, very significant development. And the other developments which are also on stream really augurs well for national development. So let me thank you for joining us on Talking Points this morning. We'll keep in touch, Karen. I know there's a lot more that we have to work on.
Definitely, I want to thank you so much for always accommodating CREAD. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to our next program with you in April.
Okay, take care, Dr. Joseph and Kennard Dazzel.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good day, everyone.
You too, all right then.
All right, bye-bye. Bye.
That's it. That's Talking Points. 1 minute after 10. Coming up, we have a weekday rendezvous with Hazari Williams. Stay tuned.